In this session, we are going to look at the math diagnostic data, and we're going to be obtaining reports to use in order to analyze performance data. And this session is for teachers. Let's look at the goals. Now, before we continue on, it is very important that you keep in mind the goals of this session as we go through the different reports that we are going to look at. So one of the goals that we want to accomplish in this session is to know how to obtain reports for analyzing performance data, be able to determine how to use the data and other resources to systematically develop a plan to improve student performance, be able to articulate your data with the math coach, set up periodic data meetings with other colleagues at your school in order to improve instruction at the school level. So as we go through the report, you're going to see that it is extremely important that you don't do this in isolation. It is important you work with other math teachers at your school, different grade levels, same grade levels. So do not do this in isolation. Using diagnostic results. So questions you and your colleagues need to consider. The first one's this. What does the analysis of the data suggest about current students' readiness for their grade level? Now remember, the diagnostic measures the previous year's standards. So what does the analysis of the data suggest about my current students' readiness for their grade level? What pattern am I seeing in my students' responses that I can use to inform my instruction? What information from the data analysis is most useful in developing individual plans for my students with the most significant learning gaps? Do I need to provide remedial instruction or opportunities for unfinished learning within the context of new learning? What does the school-wide data indicate? If warranted, based on the data, how can the school incorporate or adapt the curriculum based on information about students' strengths and weaknesses? So that's where that collaboration among other colleagues at your school, same grade level, different grade levels. And as you go through those reports, as you look at those reports, it's important to remember the following. Data does provide a way to assess what students are learning and the extent to which students are making progress towards goals. Use data systematically in order to ask questions and gain insight about students' progress. Monitor continuous improvement and tailor instruction to the needs of each student. And your school's math team should be working collaboratively with the math coach. Okay, so as we go through these reports, it's extremely important that you remember the goals that we discuss. Okay, so all of you should be in your My ANet account. I am looking at a particular I'm using a particular teacher's account at Park Forest Middle. But if you're a teacher, this is what you will see. All of you will see this in front. Okay. For today, though, we're going to be looking at this part here where it says analyzing performance data. But look at the tabs up here. So there are quite a few tabs. There's performance. We're going to look at that in another session. There's something on standards, assessments, resource hub, paper quiz tool, online quiz tool, and events. And so you have a part here that's called assessments and quizzes. And you can even create a printable quiz. And then there's the assessment performance data. So for today, we're going to look at analyze performance data, and we're going to look at data meeting math. So click on data meeting math, and then this is what you see. So on the left side, you see information for data meetings, school performance over time by, and then course, teacher, student, domain, standard, network. When you have time, it's important you go into your ANet account and look at this information. Play around with this and see what you get. And then there's period performance by standard, and then individual student performance, and you can even create custom groups. Okay, but we are interested in math, and we're also going to look at printable reports. Now, when I go to math, this is what I see on this side here. So notice the different tabs and the drop downs. So in this one, there's only one school year, that's 2021, and right now all you have reports for are math diagnostic. Notice though over here, you have for this school, remember this school, but look at your own. For this school, there's only grades, there's only students in classified as 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. All right. So if you are, let's say high school, you would see grade 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. All right, so students would either be classified as a 9th grade student, a 10th grade student, 11th grade student, or a 12th grade student. Now, for 6th grade, you'll see teachers. So you see all these teachers at that school that teaches that have students that are classified as 6th grade students. Let me rephrase that. So these are teachers at that school that have students in their classes that are classified as 6th grade students. If I go to 7th grade and look at teachers, these are teachers at that school that have 7th grade students in their classes. And then 8th grade, these are the teachers at that school that have 8th grade students in their classes. All right, so make sure you understand that part. If I go back to, well, let's stick at 8th grade. So if I go to 8th grade and I click on a teacher, so let's say Mr. Lockett, James Lockett, and I look at his periods. So right now it's showing all periods. If I look at his periods, Mr. Lockett teaches a section of Algebra 1, so there are some 8th grade students in Algebra 1. There are some 8th grade students in this Algebra 1. There are some 8th grade students in his Math Grade A class, and then there's some 8th grade students in this Math Grade A class. So these are the sections he teaches. So he teaches Algebra 1, 2 sections of Algebra 1, and then 2 sections of Grade 8 Math. All right. If you look at another teacher, Christian Robbins, and look at this teacher's periods, there are 4 sections, and they're all Grade 8 Math. All right, so just make sure you understand how to read this part. Now, notice as a teacher, you have access to each other. Okay? The reason for that is because one of our goals is for you to improve instruction school-wide and individually in your own classes, and you can do, and to maximize that, it's important you collaborate with each other. So in your math planning teams, in the time that you and the other math teachers collaborate, you need to be looking at your ANet data, and you need to be looking at each other's data. This is diagnostic. So if you are, let's say, an 8th grade teacher, a 7th grade teacher, and you want to see how how your students from last year performed on 8th grade, on the 8th grade diagnostic, which was 7th grade, I would do that. I was a math teacher in the district. I was a math content trainer when I was in curriculum, and I was a former math supervisor. That was one of the things I tried to get teachers to do, is to look at the data if they taught 7th grade, look at what's happening in 8th grade to see how those students are doing as well, especially with the math diagnostic, because the math diagnostic measures the previous year's standards. And so based on that, you can determine, well, which of those standards should I re-emphasize, or which of those standards should I try teaching differently, or which type of students in my classes do I need to spend more time with the um, to develop the concepts so that they can improve their knowledge skills or the concepts. Okay, so there are all kinds of reasons why you need to be looking at this collaboratively. Okay, cycle 5 right here means diagnostic. That's all that means. I know there's just one drop down here. All right, now I'm going to go back to 8th grade and then Mr. Lockett, and then you're going to click update. Now when I click update right here, when I click update, notice that this changes right here. All right. So this is 8th grade. So in that 8th grade diagnostic test, these were the standards from 7th grade that were assessed on that diagnostic. So 7EEA1, 7EEB3, and the description is located here. If you go to 7th grade, and I'm just going to pick all teachers for the moment, and then click update. You got to click update now. Notice that this page changed, and so these were the remember, this is 7th grade I just chose, the 7th grade diagnostic, which measured the previous year's standards. So notice these were the standards on the 7th grade diagnostic. All right, so those are the standards and the descriptions. So for example, the first one was 6EEB7. And so click on the show more to show more. So if you look at it, that standard is solve real world and mathematical problems by writing and solving equations of the form x plus b equal q and px equal q for cases in which p, q, and x are all real, all non-negative rational numbers. All right, so um, the diagnostic measured the previous year's standards. Now, let's look at the bars. So notice that there's an orange bar, which is the school performance, and there's a gray bar, which is a network. Be careful with the network. For the diagnostic, ANet in the network included any school in the United States that used this diagnostic test. So when you look at 37 to 37, go to advanced filters right here. Go to advanced filters, and any school in the United States and that used diagnostic, there were maybe one or two in California, and maybe some in Colorado, Georgia, Illinois, and so on. Rather than going to each one and clicking show and unchecking all of that, because it is time consuming, the best way to uncheck everything is to go here, select all, see it's all checked, then unselect it, go back and uncheck this, and now everything is unselected. Then go to Louisiana, go to show, don't click this, and you're going to see why. Just click on show right now, click show. And the reason I told you not to click this box is because if you do, it's going to highlight, it's going to check every school in Louisiana. But notice there's some schools in East Louisiana. There's something called Independence Charter in Louisiana. There's Kenilworth, and then the Louisiana Virtual Charter Academy. They're also using ANet, and they took the diagnostic. So to include only EBR schools, click on EBR right here. And now notice all of EBR schools are checked. You have to update down here, so click update, and now the gray bar changed. Okay, so let's talk about that the bars. So notice that overall performance. So for the 7th grade diagnostic, all teachers, and this is at this particular middle school, the average percent correct was 26%. In EBR, the average percent correct was 35% on this diagnostic. Now remember, this is diagnostic. It measures last year's standards. All right, so 35%. That's not a high number. So as you prepare on how you're going to use this data, think about think about the fact that this measures last year's standards. Okay, so think about how as a group, as a collaborative team, this is going to affect your planning. If you look at the different standards though, so notice that in 6 EEB7 at this school, the average percent correct was 36%, and for the network is 48%, and so on. Notice the three here. Those are the three with the shortest bars. So this school, for this standard 6NSA1, the average percent correct was 2%. And then for the network it was 7%. So these were three lowest. So district-wide, we would need to incorporate these into the lessons for the grade level standards for which these are prerequisites. The intent here is not to reteach all of this at the beginning of the school year. Do not take the first month of school and reteach the previous year's material. Incorporate the prerequisites of the current year standards as you get to those standards into the lesson, into the curriculum. All right, so let's look at that, maybe a reason why students perform so low in this standard. So let's look at this standard here, 6NSA1. So it's a pretty long standard, but you know right away why. It is dealing with fractions and in-word problems, right? So interpret and compute quotients of fractions and solve word problems involving division of fractions by fractions. And even some adults that have difficulty in the context of word problems to divide fractions. Okay, so the descriptions here. So you look at the next one, 6NSC6A, you show more. And this is, it states recognize opposite signs of numbers as indicating locations on opposite sides of 0 on the number line. Recognize that the opposite of a number is the number itself. So as you're collaborating with your team, look at those standards and discuss reasons why these three standards could have been so low for the students taking this diagnostic test. And then how, when you get to the current year standard where these are prerequisites, how you're going to incorporate these standards in your lesson. Okay, now notice in all this process you see something that says print all students, right? And it's grayed out. You can even see a little red circle here. So I am looking at all teachers. So as long as you're looking at all teachers, you will not be able to print all students. So I'm going to go to, let's say, a grade, and I'm going to pick a teacher, James Lockett. And now notice I am able to print all students. Okay, now when you click this, and if you do that right now, go ahead and click right now, you will get a list of students. Now let me show you what that looks like. So as I'm going to pull something over, the student's name will not appear. But when you click print all students, you'll get something that looks like this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and expand it. So you'll get something that looks like this. So you'll have the student's name here, the teacher name. And notice this is math 8th grade, interim 5. The interim 5 means diagnostic. So this student scored 18%. So 18% so the student got 18% of the point of this test correct. this diagnostic. It will list the question and the standard that went with that question. It will list the question and the standard. You see that? Question 1, this is a standard. Oops, sorry. This is a standard. Question 2, this is a standard. This is a correct answer. This is what the student put. Possible point, this is what the student score was. And these are the distractors. So it's important you look at those distractors when analyzing this data with each other. So and then you'll see omitted. So there's a little dash here. So the student omitted it. So there's a reason for each distractor. All right. So for example, number 7, it says that the student correctly subtracted 11.9 from both sides, but added 0.8 instead of dividing by negative zero point 0.8 or negative 0.8. Did not recognize to use the inverse of multiplication. All right, and so there's a report. Notice that on this diagnostic, and this was grade 8, there are 11 items. Then you go to the student B. So every student is listed. There's a report for each student. So this is student B. This is the score that student B got in the diagnosis. So it's 45%. And just like the other one, question 1, the standard. Question 2, the standard, and so on. Okay? And then you continue. So that is what, I'm going to move this back over. So this is what you get when you click on Print All Students. Okay? All right, now let's go to Printable Reports. When you click on Printable Reports, I'm going to click on it. This is what you see. Okay? There is no ELA because remember ELA diagnostic was that reading fluency. So you're not going to see anything there. All you're going to see is math diagnostic right here. Okay, so I'm going to click on PDF right here. Click on PDF or Excel. I'm going to click on PDF. Click on PDF, and then it downloads at the bottom right here. Right here, it downloads the PDF file. Now, when you open it, your student's information will be listed. So I am going to open this. Let me let's see. Okay, so I'm going to open this. I'm going to pull it over. This is what you get. Let me rephrase this. When you click PDF and it open down here, this is what you're going to get. You can get this file. Okay, and let me go ahead and expand it a little bit bigger. Make it a little bit bigger. Oops. Okay, so do it over. I'm trying to change the size of this, but not too big. Okay. All right. So notice you're going to see the student's name on the left side. You're going to see the teacher's name and the period. Now, I want to emphasize that every report for every teacher will be there. So it won't just be yours. Okay, it won't just be yours. It'll be everybody's that will be there. The whole purpose of that is for you to take all this information and work collaboratively with each other. Nothing in isolation. Work collaboratively. Okay, so let's understand how to read this report. So at the top right here, the very first row, first column, it indicates student performance. A5 means diagnostic. This is 6 period, I would imagine, or grade 6. I'm sorry, this is grade 6. 6 means grade 6. You can see that here. And then it'll be by period. So the period's listed. I'll put the period on the other page. So this is period 3. This is what it looks like. All right, so for each student, you'll see some information. See that? You'll see information. Now, go back to quick stats right here. There are 12 questions on the 6th grade diagnostic, and 24 students in this period took the test, took the assessment. The mean was 28%. The median is 29%. On this, and notice the item type key. So SR means selected response, like multiple choice. MS means multi-select, so where there could be more than one choice as a correct answer. SA means short answer. That's probably where they had to enter a number in a box. And then there's MP would be multi-part. Now the diagnostic, there was no constructed response, no writing response, but there will be a writing response on the interim. But for the diagnostic, there were no constructed or writing response. Okay, now notice that all of the standards that were on that assessment are located here. So you have 5 NBT B6, divide whole numbers. That was one question. It was question number 4. See that? Question number 4. For 5 NBT B7, compute with decimals, there were 2 questions, questions 5 and 6, that dealt with this standard, and so on. Okay? Notice the first row here underneath that, it says weighted average by standard. So that means they see that one question here that was 5B I'm sorry, 5 NB B6. So that question was worth 17% of that test. And then those 2 questions here is 29%. Um, okay, now, okay, so let me get back and let me go back to what I just said. I need to be a little bit more careful. Okay, so let's go back and talk about this weighted average by standard. All right, so notice that for 5 NB B6, divide whole numbers, you see that's 17%. Okay, so what that actually means, I was looking at it in a different context, but what this means here is this. So if you go to the next page, you will see this. You'll see down here the number of students selecting each answer choice. So for this first question right here, and that was question number 4, there were 9 students that chose answer choice A. There were 3 students that chose answer choice B. There were 7 students that chose answer choice C, and so on. You see this 4 with an asterisk, or with a little well, that little star right here. Um, that that is the correct answer. So when you see that little star, that little asterisk, that is the correct answer. You'll even see it here. Correct response, D. So there are 4 students that chose the correct answer. If you recall, when you go back here, there were 24 students who took the test, right? So 4 divided by 24 is 17%. So what that means then is this. This is what that means. That means for this item here, item number 4, 17% of the students got it correctly. All right, say percent, well, the percent points possible earned by item, 17%, but there's only one item, so you see 17% listed twice. So that's the weighted average, and the percent possible earned by item, 17%. So let's look at one that has 2. So this standard had 2 items. You see that items 5 and 6, 5 and 6. So you see where it says right here that 33%, that 33%. For item number 5, 33% of the students got it correct. And you can even check it, watch. If you go down here, there were 8 students that got the correct answer out of 24. So 8 divided by 24 is 33%. For item 6, it was 25%. If you average those two, so 33 plus 25 divided by 2, you get that 29. So what that 29% means, the weighted average by standard, is that for that standard here, 5 in BTB7, compute with decimals, for these particular students, the average correct was 29%. Now for item 5, it was 33. For item 6, it was 25, but the average is 29. All right, and then they have it by course. So for this course, for grade 6 math, for this course, the average was 43%. for item number 4. For item number 5, the average was 48%. For item number 6, the average was 31%. Okay? So make sure you understand what these percentages mean. So percent, this right here where it says percent points possible earned by item, the period. So in this period, period 3, 17% of the students got this item correct. 33% of the students got item 5 correct. 25% of the students got item 6 correct. 29% of the students got item 7 correct. For the course, 43% of the students in the course in grade 6 math got this item correct. For item 5, 48% of the students in this course, grade 6 math, got this item correct, and so on. The weighted average has to do with how many items are in that standard. So for this standard 5 NBTB6, divide whole numbers, since there's only one item, these two numbers are the same, 17%, 17%. 29% comes about from taking the average of those two. See, 29%, 29%, 29%, there's only one item. All right. And then the next one, these are the correct responses and the item types. SR, remember, means selected response. So these are all SRs right here. So multiple choice, well, they were probably all multiple choice. All right. And okay, now let's look at this. So this one student right here, see this one student, the raw score was 4. What that means is this. Remember, there were, I'm going to go back to the previous page. So there were 12 questions, right? 12 points. So each question was 1 point. So if I go to, let's go back to the one we're looking at. So if I go back to the first row right here for that first student you see right here, the raw score is 4. So 4 divided by 12 is approximately 33%. So the student scored 33%, this student scored 33% on this diagnostic. This student, the last student listed here, scored 58%. I want you to notice that when you do this report, it goes, you're probably asking, well, what's the order of this? It's not alphabetical order. It is an order of the weighted average or the raw score. So notice the first student listed has the lowest score. The last student listed has the highest score. So notice in this period, in this particular period, section 3, for grade math 6 at this school, the student with the 58% had the highest. All right, now let's talk about what these numbers mean. So notice the correct response was D, right, for item number 4. So if you see a little asterisk here, see there's an asterisk right here, the last 3, that means the student got it correct. If you see a letter in here, that's the choice the student put. So all these students put choice A. All right, and the correct answer was D. Now, as you're looking through this, you need to ask yourself, when you talk about the data, how to analyze that data, you got to wonder, why is it that those students are choosing A? See, all these students down here chose A instead of D. So go back to the item, and determine why, as you're reading the item, why did the student choose A and not D? Why are all these students choosing A and not D? And then see how, if it's the context or if there's any syntax or any wording that could be throwing them off, how you can incorporate that into your instruction when you get to those standards in your curriculum. You see a little dash right here, right? The little dash here means the student skipped the item. So that was the one that was skipped. All right, so that's what all this means. And then you have all this information down here. And so those are the 2 reports. Those are the 2 reports. I'm going to go back to dashboard, and then I'm going to go back to math data meeting. Those are the 2 reports that you could get that can help you to start analyzing the math diagnostic data. All right, so we looked at two important reports. Now, one of the goals was for you to be able to look at these reports and look at different resources that are available. So here's what I want you to think about. So you notice when we looked at, let's say, this report here, you notice that that there were a standard here, 5 NBTB6, where the students scored very low. I mean, in fact, there were quite a few others, right? There are quite a few others. But what you got to think about is this. The intent is not for you to take the whole month or 2 months and start reteaching everything the student had the previous year. That is not what the intent is. The intent is for you to take this information, and when you get to that standard where these are prerequisites, how am I going to incorporate those? How will I develop my lessons strategically to incorporate these for my students and for the different types of students you have in that class, in your class, and in the school? You're just working with each other collaboratively. Well, there is one report, and there are many. All right, so as you work with your math coach, have that discussion, incorporating how you're in how you're going to incorporate into your instruction these um, gaps in students' knowledge, these misconceptions, how you're going to incorporate those into your instruction when you get to that point. There is one report or one resource, and there are many, but there's one resource with the time we have left. There's one resource I want you to think about. Okay, I'm going to the Louisiana Department of Education, and your math coach can probably show you where in the curriculum this information is located. But for us, the quickest way for me to get there is to go to LouisianaBelieves.com, and you see where it says Classroom Support. Click on Classroom Support, and then you see where it says Teacher Support Toolbox. Click on Teacher Support Toolbox, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on Resources by Subject. So when I go to Resources by Subject, I'm going to go to K-12 Math Planning. So let's go to K-12 Math Planning. And there's all kinds of information that can help you throughout the school year. What I want to look at though is the one that says the acceleration guidance. And so if I go to grade 8, because we were looking at grade 8 earlier, if I go to grade 8 learning acceleration guidance and open it up, I get this. All right, so notice what it says. Learning acceleration will ensure students have the skills they need to equitably access and practice on grade level content. This chart is a reference guide for teachers to help them more quickly identify the specific prerequisite and co-requisite standards necessary for every grade 8 math standard. Students should spend the large majority of their time on the major work of the grade and supporting work, and where appropriate, additional work can engage students in the major work of the grade. What I want you to notice though, this is 8th grade, so when you looked at the math diagnostic for 8th grade, those standards that were tested on the math diagnostic, what you should do is look to see, and I know there's some 4th grade and 5th grade as well, but the 8th grade math diagnostic was specifically 7th grade standards. So go through the previous grade standards, see where it says 7 EEB3, that was one we read. That is a prerequisite for this current grade standard. So this is where you would incorporate this prerequisite standard into the curriculum when you get to that grade level standard. All right, so it is important you work with the math coach to implement or develop a plan strategically to incorporate this previous grade standard, this 7th grade standard. And then you keep on going. So one of the standards assessed was 7 EBRPA2. I think there were a couple of these. I can't remember which one, but it was either A or C or A or D, one of those. And then notice that this is a prerequisite for this current grade standard, 8 EEB5, where you graph proportional relationships and so on. So it is during this time where you're going to incorporate the standard where students had difficulty on the math diagnostic, on the eighth grade math diagnostic, which measured those seventh grade standards. As you go through this, though, pay close attention to those students that scored low throughout. Um, and even those students that got this correct, it remember this is multiple choice, so there's a 25% chance that they got it correct because they guessed at it, right? So be careful when you're interpreting multiple choice items as well. They could have easily just guessed the correct answer because there were only four choices. So pay close attention to the students that are struggling as well as the students that may not be struggling. Um, it is important you ask pertinent questions as you go through your lessons, and you assess appropriately as you go through this. But that was one of those that I wanted you to look at, and your math coach has probably shown you this. But that's something that I, as a math teacher, would want to be interested in. Where can I incorporate those diagnostic math standards into the current grade level? All right, and so I think that was all I wanted to discuss with this session. We talked about a lot. There's a lot that you and your colleagues, your other math teachers, and sometimes it's also a good idea to work with other math teachers in your region. So you have regions. So you're in a region. It could be in the southeast region or the mid city, um, or the north region. Work with others in that region to collaborate on how you're going to improve instruction the and based on this data and other data you collect from other resources, from other assessments that you're using. Okay, so that is all I wanted you to look at today was these two reports when you went to data meeting, the math report that you got and the printable report that you received as well. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to ask anyone in um, accountability and anyone that supports your school. Any department, the literacy department, the curriculum department, um, the special ed department, any of those departments and all other departments I did not answer or list can be of resources to you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end this session.